Hi everyone, it's Miss Sims here. Today we are going to finish our pop art hand project. So if you haven't already started last week's project where we traced our hand and then did all the lines, you need to go back to the last class before you start this one. If you've already done this one, you know how cool it is so far, and we're going to make it even cooler today by coloring it in and adding some details. So I'm excited and I'm ready. I hope you are too. Let's get started. So since we're sticking with op art this week, I wanted to show you a little bit more about our master artist, Bridget Riley. The first picture is a picture of Bridget Riley standing in front of one of her pieces of artwork. That is a flat wall, actually, that she's standing in front of, and it really looks like it has ripples, and it's because she painted it that way with the lines she used. The second picture is just another great example of how a flat piece of paper painted on or drawn on, depending on how she did it, can really look like it has movement, and it actually looks like it's falling in even though it's flat. By the end of today, your project might look something like this one. Our two main goals for today really involve how we use color. So the first goal is to create the impression of movement. And you'll know you've done that if your hand kind of pops out of the picture. And for that to happen, you need to precisely, that means very carefully, follow the lines that you already made last week when you add your color in. If you start going over the lines and you're not coloring it in really neatly, it's going to be super hard to get that impression of movement. Our second goal is to create a pattern with the colors that you chose. You need to keep that same pattern over the entire project. For example, my pattern was rainbow colors in a row, and I kept doing rainbow colors in a row the whole time. You need to keep the pattern the same, or it will not make your hand look like it's jumping off the paper as well as it would. Before we get started today, you're going to need your piece of paper you made last week that has your hand with the lines already drawn on it, and you'll also need some sort of coloring utensils. You should all have crayons now in your art supply bag, but it doesn't matter which ones you use. I'm going to use markers for mine. Make sure you have at least 2 different colors though. Whatever colors you choose are going to end up being your pattern. So if you just want your pattern to go red, blue, that's all you need. Now that we've gone through the background of this project, it is time for us to actually get started. Make sure you get those materials out. You can go ahead and pause this video and play it again when you're ready. Just a reminder, I am going to speed up my video a lot faster so you don't have to sit and watch me color every single little piece of my artwork. So take your time on this. Don't feel like you need to speed up to keep up with me. Any point in this video, you can pause, you can rewind, and you can play again so that you are doing your very best work. Here we go. So here's my hand paper with my lines, and I'm going to start coloring. I've already decided that I'm going to make a rainbow pattern, and the colors of the rainbow in order go red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So I'm going to do that every time. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm really carefully coloring all the area between the top of my paper and the first line that I drew. So now I'm going to get my orange out because that's the next color of the rainbow. And in between where the red ended and the next line started, I'm going to color in with orange. I'm going to keep doing this super carefully. And that way, every single, instead of coloring on top of the line, we're coloring in between the lines, and every single one will get filled in by the end. You are going to keep coloring in between the lines, just like I'm doing here, until you get to the point where you're getting really close to one of the fingers. At that point, make sure you're listening again for my directions so you know what to do. So my next line is going to have a bump from the very tip of my longest finger. So I slowed this back down, you can see better again. I'm coloring, and then right where my finger goes, I'm going to go along that bump. So I'm going over it just like the line shows me. I'm not continuing to do a straight line because it's not straight anymore. That's why we made those little curves every time we hit a finger when we were doing the outlines last time. So let me show you again with my orange. Remember, I'm keeping my pattern really precise. That's what we talked about as one of our goals. So here's my orange. This part is all nice and straight. And then when I hit that finger, I'm following the line I made that makes like a little curve, almost like an upside down U. And then I'm going back to coloring straight. So you're still just following the lines, but it is super important that you take your time and you be very careful at this part. every time you see a bump in one of your hands, you need to make sure that you're following that, or otherwise the optical illusion will not work. One thing to think about is what you want your pattern to look like. You can definitely just use 2 colors if you'd like to. Maybe you just want to use red and blue and switch back and forth, red, blue, red, blue. As long as you use at least 2 colors, it doesn't matter what your pattern is. Mine's rainbow, and you can see I'm continuing with rainbow the whole time. So the only thing is you cannot switch your pattern once you started it. So even if you start with a rainbow and you decide you don't like it anymore, you have to stick with that pattern the whole time, or it will really make the op art not look as good. You're just going to keep going until you finish your entire hand, and that is it. That's all you need to do today to finish your op art project. I hope you had fun. I think this project is one of my favorites because it looks so cool when it's done, and I can't wait to see what pattern you chose and what yours looks like. Make sure that you add a picture to your Google Classroom when you're done, and then keep this somewhere safe so that you have it, because I think it's something you're really going to want to save. When you are finished coloring, that's it for this week. Next week we will start with our folders that you got in your supply pickup last week, so just double check, and if your family hasn't gotten it yet, make sure you go to the Rock Creek office so you can pick up that folder and we'll be ready to go for next week. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what you worked on, and I'll see you next week. Bye!